Welcome to Philosophy. Here, we explore why we act the way we do, why we choose certain things and not others, why we like some people and not others. I am your host, Dr. D. I am trained as a scientist, and I've also been deeply interested in philosophy for quite some time. Today, we will be talking about desires. Why do we want? Before we start exploring this topic, let's quickly recap our prior analyses. In our video on satisfaction, we showed that satisfaction is built on desires. And in our basic behavioral algorithm video, we argued that choice itself is based on maximizing satisfaction. Together, these ideas raise a deeper question. If choice is driven by satisfaction, and satisfaction is built on desires, then where do desires come from? The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer once said, "Man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills." Later, Albert Einstein echoed the same idea. In this video, we explore how desires arise, evolve, and ultimately shape who we are. If this sounds like an interesting idea to you, please join us. All of us are familiar with desires. We have them all the time. In fact, if nothing more urgent is happening, we spend most of our day trying to satisfy them. It's one of the basic patterns of life. But where do these desires come from? Some of them are built in from birth, like hunger and thirst. We often call these needs or instincts, but they also function as wants, because that's how they appear in our experience. We don't feel a biological need for calories. We feel a desire to eat. Other basic desires emerge later, like the desire to mate. All of these are just biological instincts that every human shares. But in this video, I want to focus on the desires we learn. One of these learned desires is the desire for safety, what we often call the survival instinct. Many people assume that survival is innate, but for humans, it actually isn't. A newborn doesn't know that touching something hot will cause pain, or that crawling over the edge of a skyscraper would lead to a fatal fall. Our sense of danger develops through experience, not birth. So the desire for safety is something we learn over time. And this brings us back to Schopenhauer's point that we cannot will what we will, but we do learn to want. So one way to acquire wants is to learn them. The next logical question is, how do we learn to want something? Let's take safety as an example. How do we learn to want safety? One way is from personal experience. If we burn ourselves by touching a hot stove, we will most likely want to avoid touching hot stoves again. Another way is from observing. If we see someone trip over a curb and hurt themselves falling down, we will most likely want to pay extra attention to curbs the next time we go for a walk. So the want for safety is learnt from the want to not hurt ourselves. This brings us to a very important point. The learning of wants comes from something more essential. Let's again invoke our trusty basic behavioral algorithm. It says that at any situation, we do the thing that we think will satisfy us the most. If we see not hurting ourselves as the most satisfactory thing in the situation we are in, we will want to avoid touching hot things or tripping over curbs. This suggests that not just actions, but wants also come from us weighing on what is the most satisfactory for us. Indeed, we want according to what we think gives us the maximum satisfaction. Take Sally, a curious child who wants to touch the stove grill. At first, she acts on raw curiosity and burns herself. Next time, her brain weighs satisfaction differently. Avoiding pain now feels more rewarding than touching the grill. Later, she learns a strategy, checking the knobs to ensure the stove is off so she can satisfy curiosity without risk. Eventually, after repeating this a few times, she loses interest altogether. This shows how desires evolve. They adapt to experience, shift with context, and sometimes disappear when they no longer bring satisfaction. This simple story illustrates how desires evolve through experience. But this isn't limited to childhood curiosity. It applies to basic needs like hunger too. Suppose we are somewhat hungry, but do not have the thing we want to eat. But after getting really hungry, our body starts craving anything that could satisfy our hunger, not just the thing that we wanted to eat at first. A cute representation of this specific scenario was in the cartoon Madagascar. After the lion didn't eat for a while, he started seeing his zebra friend as steak. Again, our desires evolve. So here is what we got so far. We cannot control what we want. Our need for satisfaction creates our wants, and we chase to fulfill them. On top of this, our wants change depending on what satisfies us the most in a given environment. As we said in the basic behavioral algorithm, we choose what to do from the options we are aware of. Well, the changing environment is one of the factors that makes us choose different things, since it changes the options available to us. As we just discussed, this algorithm works not only when our brain chooses what to do, but also when it chooses what to want. As in the example with satisfying hunger, depending on what's available, our brain will pick different things it wants to eat. So far, we've seen how desires arise, evolve, and adapt to our environment. Now let's explore how our brain prioritizes them to maximize satisfaction. In our last video, we proposed that the predicted satisfaction is the weighted sum of desire strengths. The weights reflect how much each desire is expected to fulfill us. We call them predicted fulfillment ratios. For example, at some point in time, we might want food, and we predict it will fulfill us a lot. And we also want to sleep, but we predict it will not fulfill us as much. To get the predicted satisfaction based on these two desires, we multiply the strength of our desire to eat by how much we think eating will fulfill us. Do the same with the desire to sleep, and then add the two products. Now let's use this to figure out the strengths of the two desires that would maximize the predicted satisfaction, given our predictions about how the two desires will fulfill us. Mathematically, this is just the principle that the inner product is maximized when the two vectors align. In plain terms, our brain strengthens the desires that promise fulfillment and weakens those that don't. Let's go back to our example. Suppose we predict that eating will satisfy us, but sleeping will not. If eating promises fulfillment, but sleeping does not, then desire to eat will be strong, and the desire to sleep will be weak. The thing to notice here is that this process of prioritizing desires is done purely autonomously. Our brain just prioritizes the desires that lead to stronger satisfaction. This theory completely aligns with Schopenhauer's famous statement that a man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills. One of the counterarguments that I heard about this theory of not being able to choose what we want is that we can actually make ourselves not do the things our bodies want to do. As an example, people go on hunger strikes and do not eat, even though their bodies clearly want food. What we need to realize, though, is that this refusal to eat is not a choice against desire, but the expression of a stronger desire. To rebel, to prove a point, or to uphold a principle. Since desires drive our actions, change over time, and we adapt to satisfy them as much as we can, one could say that desires actually shape our personality. We are not what we eat, we are what we want. We inherit basic biological desires like hunger, thirst, and mating, but over time, we develop new ones through experience. The desires we form depend on our environment, the people we meet, etc. These experiences develop what satisfies us, and our desires develop to align with these things. Our identity is sculpted less by our actions than by the desires that drive those actions. I've often been complimented for never smoking, but can I really take credit? I simply never had the desire. It's easy to resist what you don't want, and far harder when the desire is present. Even though we cannot want what we want, we do learn to want, but that learning is also not intentional. In this sense, we should be thankful for not learning to want harmful things. We do not choose what we want, but we always want what we believe will satisfy us most. And in that pursuit, our desires quietly shape the people we become. And even though we cannot choose our desires, they choose us through the promise of satisfaction. This concludes our video. I am Dr. D, bidding you farewell until the next one.